All right.
So we'll talk about that too.
All right. Just give me a sec here. And of course, if you want to share your link, James, in the chat.
Yeah, I will. I will. I got to get over to. I've got to get over to the YouTube channel so I can do
Sure.
it that way.
All right. So, and if you can like and share the stream as well, and share it, just see if we can get some more people in here. That'd be cool too. All right. So,
I know I got you followed, but where is your channel at?
well, my channel name is my name. The mic stand is the name of the live program that I
Okay,
do.
so what is your name again? Mike what?
Mike Wolver. So if you're okay, so go to the mic stand weekend edition.
I okay. I'm. That's what I'm saying. It's not pulling up, so I got to find it.
Remember, the way I spell mic stand is with my name, not MIC.
Mike.
Right. It's
Right.
and it's all and mic stand is all one word too.
Okay, so it's one word. Got it. Uh, okay, I got it.
You find it?
Yep, and I just clicked on it.
And we are live, by the way. Okay.
Hello, everybody.
I see you did just like it, so thank you for that. Albeit it's still saying only one watching. Oh, now two watching. Okay, now it finally registered. So, and again, if you're on there now, James, if you, as I said, if you want to share your link, do that.
There we go. There's the link live.
Okay. All right. I see it on YouTube. It's just taking a moment, I guess, to pop up on. Oh, there we go. That way I can highlight that. So, all right. Well, everybody, welcome to the Mikestand Weekend Edition. So, tonight, of course, we got James here. Of course, we'll see who else shows up. We'll just wait and see who else shows up. So before we get back to what we were talking about just before we went live, James, you want to introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are and talk about what you do.
Yep. Hello, folks. My name is James D. Lee. I am the creator of the Steins Horror Trilogy and the upcoming graphic novel, The Steins Rise of the Vampires. The link was put into the chat, so click over that to go to the pre-sign up. Now, here's the big announcement for that. A major artist who formerly worked for Image contacted me. I didn't contact him, contacted me and asked if he could do a cover for me. Of course, I'm not going to be stupid. I said yes. So I have seen preliminaries of it. More news will be coming this week once we get a final rendition of the cover, and we'll release the name of that artist. But it is a major, major artist. So if you want to get that cover, you will need to go sign up now on the pre-sign up, which is the link that's in the description, in the chat. So get over there and sign up for it now. But you will the first inkling, I will say this: he's on the professionals, so it's one of the guys on the professionals. Okay, so one of those guys reached out to me, and yes, he is doing a cover for me. So you will see that shortly in a few days. So get that now.
And then of course once you will reveal his name
Yeah,
for us so
yeah,
everybody knows who.
yeah. But it's not going to be revealed till after the professionals. They'll make the announcement there.
All right. All right. So with that, guys, I welcome everybody to the Mike Sound. We're starting, of course, getting the show started here. Prior to the show, of course, we were talking about some of the stuff going on from Wrestle Kingdom this past week from New Japan.
Yes,
in
fantastic
which
show. That was a fantastic show. Most of you guys don't know. In the past, I did work for New Japan Pro Wrestling, so I get to watch. I used to go every year over there to watch the show, but since COVID and all that stuff, I've not been able to. So hopefully next year I will be able to go. But I did watch it live the whole 5.5 hours, which was basically their version of WrestleMania. Hats off to this. I mean, there wasn't a bad match at all that night. Not a bad match. Great highlights, of course, the Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay match. That just, I mean, you can see the war that's going to be coming from that. Of course, Kenny took the title from Ospreay. I do think that opens up Ospreay to go back against for the world title. I think he's going to go back up to the world title. I don't think he's going to hold the U.S. title again. Um, Another thing, you can see that the Suzuki Gun faction has broken apart into several different factions now. Um, Not only that, but then you had your world title where Okada took back the title. So Okada versus Will Ospreay is something I do see coming later down the line. I think that'll be a really good matchup.
And based on what I was seeing from the results and stuff, you almost get the impression that you're going to probably this year here. I mean, we saw a little bit of it in 2022, but I think it looks like maybe possibly in 2023 you're going to probably be seeing a lot more of New Japan and AEW working together a lot more. You're going to be seeing a lot. It does seem like there seems to be
Yeah,
getting up for more and more crossover.
it's going to happen. Not only that, you're going to see a lot more shows in the United States with New Japan. Now I don't know how they're going to pull this one off. I don't know because they're doing Hikaloa versus Jay White. Loser leaves Japan. Now, what I think is going to happen is one of them got signed by another company, probably WWE, and they're keeping it quiet. That's why you saw all of the things between WWE and New Japan in the past few months, especially with Carl Anderson. My guess is probably Hikaloa is going to go because, of course, Hikaloa's the family's in Florida. Haku, his dad's in Florida. So I think he's probably going to go to, lose the match between Jay White because Jay White's from New Zealand. I don't see Jay White coming to the States for a long period of time. I don't see him coming to the WWE at all. So
Well, he has been an Impact before, though. I know he did have.
Well, the thing I'll explain what Jay White was doing on Impact and AEW and stuff. He was doing a trip for New Japan. Okay, it's sort of like what you do with a world champion, where you send them out so people can see them. But you also remember
kind of like what NWA used to do when they were more the governing body as opposed to
right. And what you got to remember also, Jay White, when he did his excursion for 2 years, he went to Ring of Honor. So he was in Ring of Honor for 2 years before he came back to New Japan. But I think he's too big of a star. New Japan does not want to lose him. He makes a very good heel. I mean, fantastic heel. I've always been a fan of Jay. I think he's just an unbelievable wrestler. He's fantastic. So I see that going on. The women's division in Stardom is so packed. And now you have, of course, Mercedes, which is, of course, a.k.a. Sasha Banks, now signed with them. And supposedly she's signing with AEW also. So she's going to be doing double work.
AEW. I don't know about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's been some
I know that. Yeah, I do know that. Now, one of the other sources I follow is WrestleMania. There was some. We got Rick's here. Hello, Rick.
Hey, how are you? Sorry I'm a bit late.
Beautiful cover, Rick.
Thank you.
Very beautiful. Very lovely.
Before we get back to our conversation, Rick, you want to introduce yourself and tell everybody about and if, of course, you can like and share the stream, that would help too. If you want, and share your link.
I will. I am Rick Piper, obviously, as Mike has referred to me, of Cross Comics, and I do Christian comic books. This one that you're seeing is one that should be printed within the next month. It's all done, along with the Canadian Shield 2, which should be printed in the next month to go out. And it is on Indiegogo right now in demand till I get copies.
Yeah, something happened today on Indiegogo too. A campaign got completely shut down and all funds were refunded to the people. and nobody knows why.
Well, that seems to have been going on a lot lately. I mean, remember,
this was a complete refund. This was a complete refund to all. I mean, they lost all the money, so nobody got any money.
What campaign was this? Do you know?
I don't know. I saw something on Twitter earlier, but it came out and they were like, "We don't know what happened, but something happened," and I was like, "Uh-oh."
Well, I mean, Indiegogo's been having these issues with that for a while now. So I mean, and
the shadow
banning. We all know
banning.
what's been going on with the Mike Barron stuff. So yeah. So anyway, let me. And then here for everybody who's watching the show here, here's Rick's link if you want to go check his thing out, his comic out. There you go. All right, so but anyways, back to the point I was making. So according to the source that I follow, WrestleMania, yeah, there was some talk that Mercedes Varnado, aka Mercedes Moné, aka Sasha Banks, was going to AEW. The initial talk was she was going to be making her debut this Wednesday's Dynamite as Saraya's tag partner against Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker. But then Saraya came out and announced that Toni Storm was going to be her partner. And according to the report, I guess to Dave Meltzer and some of the reports I saw from WrestleMania, which is another YouTube channel, now there's still talk that it's not necessarily a matter of whether or not she's going back to WWE, but when, because WWE is still apparently trying to get her to go back. But but one of the other things that was pointed out in the report as well is that at least for the immediate future, she's not necessarily interested in going to any of the major companies. She's just kind of she's right now just focusing on Mercedes just focusing on her work in New Japan right now and fulfilling her contractual obligations there. She's not, apparently, at least according to their reporting, she's not necessarily interested right now in going to any of the bigger companies right now.
Well, if you listen, I'm explaining contracts with New Japan. It's like that, okay? New Japan is the second largest professional company in the world when it comes to wrestling. It's number 2. As of the last, when it came to financials and everything like that, it's number 2. Now, on top of that, I'll explain how contracts work in New Japan. All contracts in New Japan are for 1 year. They're renewed right after Wrestle Kingdom. So everybody knows what's going to happen when they go into Wrestle Kingdom. Mm-hmm. After that, then everything's done. Even with Stardom, it's a 1-year contract. Mercedes has signed a contract with New Japan / Stardom, and it is for 1 year. She's on contract for 1 year. That's how everything works. Okay? So, I mean, I don't know what organizations you're talking with or like that. I know the workings of New Japan. I know how their contracts work. And everything to do is for 1 year. Okay? Mm-hmm. So the thing with Carl Anderson, and I'll explain what happened with Carl Anderson. Carl Anderson had a provisional contract for 6 months. Mm-hmm. They put the Neverweight title on him, and then he got a recall, which WWE has in their contracts, and recalled him and Carl and Doc Gallows back to WWE. That's why they went back over to WWE. The thing was, they had a sticking point with the contracts because he held the title of the Neverweight title. So New Japan had an option. They could have stripped him of the title and stuff like that, but they chose because Triple H, and if you don't know, William Regal's back over at WWE.
I know that. Yeah,
William Regal has a very good relationship with New Japan. Mm-hmm. I mean, extremely good. They love Regal, and now with the people that are the people they have in WWE, it's almost like it was back in the early 80s where they were swapping characters. That's why you got to see Tiger Mask show up at Madison Square Garden a lot, and others.
Right. Well, yeah, I know that between 1975 and 85,
they had a really good contract.
At the time, WWF
Yeah,
had
very good,
had a
very
working relationship with New Japan.
Yeah, so that's basically where we're at right now, which is a very good thing. We may actually see something like Tanahashi or one of the big stars do a New Japan match during WrestleMania. I mean, that's the thing.
Here's something that just has happened in the last couple of days that you might have heard about that might put some wrinkles in some of that. So supposedly now Vince McMahon is making a bid to return to the company.
But not as CEO. Okay, he's asking to get put back on the board. He's not asking for CEO. There's a difference. That's what I'm getting at. The difference on that is he would still have some control in the company, but he would not be making the big decisions. You have to remember also, Vince McMahon is over the age of 70. He's got
77. Yeah, I know.
He's got to slow down.
That's hard to say.
Well,
there's lots of 70-year-olds that are doing a lot.
He's not Sammy Hagar, Dawkins, or George Lynch. Okay, we'll just put those guys out there. If you didn't know, Sammy Hagar is 74. 75. George Lynch and Dawkins are both 69. They're still rocking. Everybody looks really good, but that's the exception. Vince is starting to show his age. Okay, no matter how much plastic surgery he does, he's still showing his age. Mm-hmm. So that being said, he's got to slow back some like that. There's
also some talk that he wants. There was some talk too that
I know what the talk is, but again, right now the major stockholder is Triple H. Yes, definitely sold its stock, but basically sold it to him. So he's got Triple H has got he's in there now, and that's why you don't see Triple H on the road at all, because Triple H has to slow down too because of his heart.
Yeah,
he has a serious heart problem
until happened the last couple of years.
Yeah, he's not over that. That's going to be permanent with him for the rest of his life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why he's staying in New Hampshire. So it's a win-win. And you could have a bigger thing. They've also got that contract with the NWA, so they could really do some serious rework here.
Who's got the contract with the NWA?
Oh, you don't know about that?
WWF has.
WWE has an open contract with
NWA. Oh wait, yeah, I do
for a title defense.
That's in regards to the NWA World Title, right?
That is correct. They have an open contract anytime, any place. They can call for a title defense of that belt on any of their shows. That is an open contract. It is a legal binding contract. Mm-hmm. That was set up during the if you don't know, when WCW split from the NWA and became World Championship Wrestling, the NWA kept going. Well, as it went up in the late 90s, the WWE got with the NWA, which at the time,
in the mid-90s,
the person that was over was Jim Cornette, and they worked out this deal where the titles were on the line. They actually had the World Tag Team titles, the North American title, and other titles defended on Raw. The videos are there. Believe me or not, the titles are there. So you had all that stuff going on. So all these contracts are still there. So all the title belts can be defended. Even Billy Corgan, if I was him, I'd be calling WWE. I was like, hey, you got this contract. We could do a title shot up on one of your shows, really, pull this in. It'd be, be one of those things. They could really do it, But that's just hearsay or whatnot. But yeah, like it's New Japan right now. I was surprised that Jonah went back to WWE, but they offered him a lot of money. Mm-hmm. After that splash he did in New Japan, he got over so well in New Japan, it was not even funny. Another guy, Tito Ortiz. Oh my God. Tito Ortiz is the second coming of Billy Jack. He's got the look, he's got the build, he's got the moves. He really, give him 3 to 5 years, he's going to be something major. If it's not in New Japan, it'll be WWE. He looks phenomenal. That guy is just. I have nothing bad about saying about him.
Yeah. One piece of news I saw earlier today on WrestleMania. WWE is actually looking to sign Tama Tonga.
That's going to be kind of hard to do because he just made a 1-year deal with New Japan. I think they're going to get his brother because they're doing that match. Loser leave Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to be.
Well, I think according to the report, they were possibly looking at signing both of them, but they did report on WrestleMania today, which is a YouTube channel you can go check out if you want.
I think Hikuleo would be the one to take.
Yeah,
because he's younger, he's raw, he can get more out of NXT, and he's almost 7 feet tall.
Yeah. What's kind of funny too is what when they were talking about Tama Tonga possibly signing with the WWE, I found that a little surprising because if that doesn't in fact happen, they're going to have another situation they've been having for the last couple of months with the Cole Anderson situation with the never open weight title.
Did you see the conference after the matches when they did the back room?
No, I don't watch the media scrum.
Okay, I'll explain what happened. Tama Tonga was back there. Hikuleo was back there. Tama Tonga's daughter was there, which he never brings her up on screen. Carl Anderson came out, congratulated, Tama Tonga. They both had a beer together, and he was talking to both of them, saying, he'd see them later, and they party more. So I think Hikuleo is going to go. I would say Tama Tonga and Tongaloa probably won't go for another year, but I think they're going to get all three of them. I really do. I think they'll pull all three of them. But that's usually what happens. The gaijin talent does not stay with New Japan more than 1 or 2 years or 3 years, unless they're from New Zealand or someplace, close. If they're American or if they're British, they don't stay that long.
Well, yeah, but you still have some American talent, usually through some of the deals they have.
Well, I'm talking about spending years. Now, SAP, the Destroyer, stuff like that, that's an exception. They did their career. They did the most of their career over in Japan. Mm-hmm. Japan is an enigma wrestling company of its own because it brings in two different cultures. You have the Japanese Asian wrestlers and you have the Western wrestlers mix, which you're not going to see any place else. Also, if you didn't know, Dragon Lee has reported NXT. He's signed.
I saw that.
He's going. That's why they did that move with him in AEW, where Rush turned his back on him. That was to write him out of the AEW thing. So that was what that was of. Because, Rush, Dragon Lee, and Mysterio are brothers. All three of them are. So, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of movement going around. It's always January, February. There's a lot of movement in wrestling going around. So it'll calm down at the end of February.
Well, I mean, you have a couple of big, you have a couple of pay-per-views coming up this month too. Like this Friday, you got Impact, Hard to Kill, and you have Royal Rumble later in the month as well. So,
well, see, Royal Rumble, that's where you're going to see a surprise. I think if they're going to do, we'll see. The big match, I think, before Royal Rumble is going to be Jay White versus Hikuleo. And I think Hikuleo is going to lose. And then what that's going to do is when the Royal Rumble comes out, you'll see Hikuleo come out. And, of course, if you're going to have Hikuleo come out, you're going to put him with Roman Reigns because they're putting all the Tongans together. I mean, they are. I mean, they're putting all of them together.
Well, hold on, though. Roman's not Tongan. He's Samoan.
Well, okay, Tonga and Samoan, they're right there. They're right there together. They're not that far apart. If you didn't know, they're not that far apart. But I do see him getting put over there like that because
basically what you're saying is they're putting all the Pacific Island wrestlers together.
Yeah, I think they're going to make it into a bigger faction. Something. I mean, this faction's growing. It's got a lot of popularity. As a heel faction, it's doing a very good job. So or unless they're going to bring him into feud with Roman Reigns and the rest of them, and then later on you'll see, Loa and Tonga come in.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that can go on, and there's a bunch of. I mean, it's just like when they bring up Rick Steiner's son up to the main roster. Holy crap, he's just gonna murder everybody because he looks just like his uncle. He's got the build, he's got the move set. He looks just like his uncle.
What Scott? He looks like which version of Scott? Early Scott or
early Scott? When Scott was the dark-haired suplex machine monster, that's Bone Breaker looks just. I mean, he looks just like his uncle.
Yeah,
he really does.
I never, I honestly like Scott better. The early part of his career, I did not like.
Scott. I've always said Scott was the better wrestler before he got jacked. When Scott and Rick were in Japan, oh my God, they were a whole different ballgame. I mean, they were not like they were in the United States. They really put on a show, and I mean they did moves. They did moves in Japan. They never did in the United States.
Yeah. But I think as a wrestler though,
yeah. Well, as a wrestler guy, he was a whole different ballgame.
I think him bulking up like that actually made him less of made him a worse wrestler. I liked it better earlier. I mean,
no, I mean you're not going to get me on an argument on that one. I mean, I agree with you 100%. The younger version of the Steiners was the better version.
Yeah.
That was.
Well, Rick maintained a pretty good amount. I mean, Rick was never going to be a main eventer.
Well, Rick was the older, wiser brother, but he was still Rick. That was the thing, and I think what really got Rick was Eddie Gilbert's death. I think that's what kept him centered. And because when Eddie died, that really got him and Sting. Because you have to understand, Scott Steiner, Sting, Missy Hyatt, and Eddie Gilbert were this heel faction before Sting even went to WCW.
In Mid-South UWF. Yeah.
And they were close. They got real close. And then when Eddie died, that just that really put Scott on the narrow path. He kept his head the whole time. The whole time.
Well, Eddie's death actually happened well after that faction broke up because.
But still, when Eddie's death, it's still a shock because he was still so young. He wasn't that old. I think he was like 32 when he died.
Yeah, I think. Well, yeah, somewhere in his early to mid 30s.
Yeah. So let's get off the wrestling subjects. Let's go back to comic books because we have a debacle that's going on with DC. And Marvel and all that garbage.
One of the things I covered this last week was this last week's releases was entirely Bat Family releases. Entirely, Bat Family releases the entire releases of James, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, you look like you froze for a moment.
No, I had to check something on my phone. Okay, so here's the only thing that's saving DC right now is Mark Silvestri. That's it. Okay, DC is. How can I put this? And you have to understand something. I'm a Warner Brothers investor. I own quite a bit of stock in Warner Brothers, and when I watch what DC does, it kind of ticks me off. And same thing with James Gunn. I've made very clear what I think of James Gunn. And you have to understand something. This is my official where I stand with James Gunn. I think he's a good producer, filmmaker, and like that, but he needs a PR person. He needs to shut up and get a PR person out there to save what he's doing because he's just doing so much damage. It's not even funny. And that's on that. Now, on the comic book side, they're running out of ideas and they're running out of money. Because that audience,
and some of the ideas they're coming up with are not
Good.
Go with that.
I'm not even going to go with
the latest.
I'm not going to go
storyline.
with that debacle with the Joker. I think that book should be burned at the stake and be done with. But
you know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah, I know it. Yeah,
The
but I mean,
pregnant
that's not
Joker.
even. I'm sitting there watching. I'm sitting there seeing this panel, and you have the Batgirl 1 and Batgirl 2 and Robin, motorcycles, cell phones, and I'm like going, what the hell is this? I mean, come on, guys. You want action. You don't want this bullshit BS. Because that's what it is. It's BS. They can't write anything. I mean, and then Dan Slott, oh my God, he went on a let's ban everybody because everybody's picking on me bull crap because he said something stupid. And you know, it's just like, guys, you're going to run out of business. I mean, let's look at IDW. I mean, their stock's at 85 cents a share. I mean, it is
and they just lost a whole slew of titles too.
Oh, and Valiant's even worse. Valiant's down to releasing one book a month.
I thought Valiant was dead.
Valiant, they're almost dead. They're almost. They're I mean, they're on life support, and now Valiant can't pay anybody. Heavy Metal is behind on payments.
Wow.
I think Rick wanted to say something.
I was just gonna say they are dead. A big comic book company like that down to one book, they are dead.
Yeah, I mean, when I read the title, I was like, going, "You're doing one book a month? What the hell happened to your company?" And then, oh, I'm sorry, Heather Antos is over there. I'm like, oh, that's right, she ruined that company. IDW, oh, that's right, Heather Antos was in that company. She ruined that company. You know, it's like, don't hire her because she destroys comic book companies. I mean, she did. She was like editor over at Valiant, jumped Valiant when it was going down, went over to IDW, and now IDW is tanking like a rock. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I mean, they lost a whole slew of titles, and of course,
they lost the big ones. They lost G.I. Joe, Transformers, and other stuff.
The two most notable titles they lost were the Transformers and G.I. Joe.
Yeah, I mean, when they lost those two, they were done. I was like, holy cow, what did you guys do?
Well, I know one of the things they were trying to do. They were trying to once again push a particular agenda in the Transformers comic with the whole, you know.
Well, see, here's the problem. This is the problem with the comic book business right now, as a whole. I'm talking about Marvel, DC, Image, everybody. They got off that kick of, hey, we're a business. We need to make money, and to make money, we have to sell comic books, and they got off that track. Because I guarantee you, if they kept their mind on, we have to sell comic books that bring us money, so we stay in the black, and we don't have a parent company like Warner Brothers protecting us. See, that's the problem. DC's got Warner Brothers money, but the problem is now you have Zaslav, who is sitting on the money. He's like, nope, we're not paying for this. 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 We're not paying for this because I need to make money, and this is not profitable.
Yeah, they hired people who didn't know who their customers were.
Exactly. Thank you. See, that's the whole point. The whole point is this: 85%. I'm sorry for diversity and all that, but 85% of comic book readers are males between the ages of 35 and 50. That's
especially for DC Marvel type stuff with their superheroes.
That is the demographic for DC Marvel Image Comics. 35 to 50-year-olds that are not woke LGBTQ straight men. That's who reads the comic books. That's who you need to focus on. Because what sells? Oh my God. Look at One Punch Man. I'm sorry, One Punch Man is a derivative of Superman. It's just made it where he's way overboard Superman, and he, so like that. But it is so well written, so well drawn. It sells 500,000 copies a month.
Yeah. Although I must say, I do believe they do need to attract new readers, but who are those readers going to be? You want people that will buy comic books. You need to get the kids reading the comic books, and that's what they're not doing. They're trying to attract people in that age range originally that you said, but that doesn't buy comics or couldn't care less about comics.
No, they do. The thing is, they do buy comics. They're buying manga.
Yeah. No, I mean the woke people.
No,
they're trying to attract the woke people that don't like comics.
You can't make money that way. I'm sorry. I'll put it like this. When I was on Critical Blast talking about the Steins, my book, and I gave my pitch, I have never had so many people contact me on Twitter and on so like that asking more about it. Yeah. The whole thing was you have a man who is giving up everything he has because of an oath to defend a country that's not his, to protect a family that's not his. He's willing to sacrifice everything for that. And that resonated. That resonated like you wouldn't believe. When I have an artist reach out wanting to do a cover for it just because on that pitch, and then when I showed him the character designs, he's like, "Oh my God, I love these character designs." That's what you're missing in mainstream comics.
Yeah,
you have nothing that resonates.
Yeah. Speaking of pitches, James, you want to tell Rick and those people who might be in here new what your announcement from earlier?
Okay, here's the announcement from earlier. When I did Critical Blast last week, a Image Comics artist reached out to me to ask to do a cover for the Steins. I'm not going to say who it is until I will say this: he's on the professionals. Once the professional's over with, then I can make the announcement. But he's doing a special cover for the Steins. So that cover, if you want it right now, you need to get over and sign up for it on the Indiegogo campaign, because that cover is going to be there. It was first time ever. It was, and this is what I'm saying: when you have a book that resonates, when you have a story that resonates for the readers, which are, and you got to understand, the stories that they're putting out now don't resonate. Doesn't hit with the reader. That's why Mark Silvestri's Batman is selling so well. It hit with the reader. It resonates. And the artwork, oh my God. It's got to be some of the best artwork Mark Silvestri's ever done in his life. It is unbelievable.
And that's why the pregnant Joker doesn't resonate.
That's the same thing. I want to say this. The only DC book, if you're going to do an LGBTQ book, that's going to work. That is going to work because they've been hitting at it since the 90s cartoon. It is only going to work between Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn. That's the only way. And you got to have it as a love triangle with the Joker involved to make it stick. That would be the only one that would work. Everything else has died at the vines and failed. The stuff they did with all the other characters has completely crumbled and fallen apart. It doesn't sell. It doesn't work. And that's the only way to do it. I mean, that's it.
Yeah, and speaking of pitches, feel free, of course, to periodically put your links in from time to time as well. So feel free to do that as well. Actually, there are a couple other interesting little news pieces from comics I wanted to touch upon. Namely, a couple of passings. One that did happen this past week, and one that was reported this past week. One's comics related, one's manga related. So the one that's comics related, comic artist and historian Lou Mogan passed away this last week. Do you know who Lou Mogan is? You know who I'm talking about?
I've heard the name, but I've never met the person.
He was a comic book writer and historian. I guess one of it, and from the comic book creative perspective, he was the guy who gave everybody the Swordsman in the Avengers comic. From a historian aspect of it, long before internet, long before GCD, Grand Comics Database, he was known for making some of the character indexes that people would read growing up. He passed away this past week. I reported on him. I think it was like Monday or something like that. And then another passing that happened. This was more of a manga passing. Now it was reported this last week in CBR, but apparently it happened about a month ago, back on December 12th. The artist for Mazinger Z, Gosaku Ota, passed away at the age of 72 back on December 12th. So, couple of passings, I figured we just make mention of that here real quick. Any thoughts, James, on either? Well, you said you knew a little bit about Lou Milligan. But,
yeah, like I said, I really don't know that much about him. So I really can't say much about him. Like I said, I've never met him, or I've seen one picture of him, and that's it. So,
and what about Kosaku Ota?
Ota, man, I know we're losing some of the greatest guys from back then. And the one, and I mean, you got to understand, even with Ghibli, he's 88 years old. I mean, he's not going to be around much longer.
Oh, you mean Hayao Miyazaki?
Yeah, Miyazaki he's not, he's getting up there. So we're having the thing about it is they've got people in Japan that love the animation. They love the manga. They're coming in, young. They're coming in young. I'm talking about 18, 19, 20-year-olds are coming in young that are keeping it alive. Unlike here in the United States, where you have the 18, 19-year-olds that don't care. They'll read the manga, but they don't want to help with the comic books. One exception, of course, is Noah. I think he's 17. He's doing a hell of a job with his art and stuff.
Noah who?
He was on Ethan's stream last night.
Oh.
Or Friday night. I think it was Friday night he was on. But yeah, Noah's getting some traction. He's a 17-year-old. He's always been on. He was on Shelby's Robertson's channel a lot. But keep an eye out for him. I think he's going to be something in the future.
Oh. Speaking of Ethan for a moment, I don't know if you saw this, James, or not, but Ethan is actually going to be on RJ's channel this week.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be good. That's going to be good.
Yeah, on Thursday. Apparently, he's going to apparently be on RJ's channel. I saw that earlier. I was kind of hoping that RJ would have joined us and he could have talked about that, but
yeah, that should be interesting.
Well, I noticed Ethan's reaching out more and more now that I think the lawsuit got settled.
So the lawsuit with
Comicsgate.
Oh.
I think now that's gotten settled. He actually owns it now.
The trademark thing.
Yeah, he owns it. I believe that's what happened. So.
Well, yeah. In fact, actually, that's I think that's what they're going to actually talk about.
Yeah. So.
Because I did see Comicsgate TM on there. I wasn't even sure what the TM was until you just mentioned it now.
Yeah, it's trademarked. Yeah, it's trademarked now. So. And see, that's what I did with the Steins. I own everything about the Steins, copyright and everything. So it's mine. So was the Von Steins. Both of those are mine. And you got to take care of yourself. You got to own your properties. And I tell this to everybody that's starting out: get you a good attorney, get everything copyrighted, get everything trademarked, and hold on to them with dear life. That way you don't get swindled. Because it happened quite a bit back in the 50s and 60s.
I can believe that.
It did. I mean, you have to understand. I try to explain this about publishers and all that. They're out to make money. They don't care about writers. They don't care anything. Just like J.K. Rowling. She went through so many publishers until one. And she had to come up with $5,000 just to get them to take the first book of Harry Potter. Because that's what they said. You needed to come up with $5,000. We'll take the book, we'll put it out, but we're not going to take any losses on printing it or anything like that. So you got to come up with $5,000.
I'm gonna step away for a moment. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no problem.
Continue talking, guys.
Okay. But I mean, that's what they did, and you cannot. Her book went and made millions and millions of dollars, made billions of dollars.
Yeah.
But the comic book, independent comic books. Back in the day, independent comic books, you had to raise the money before you could get it printed or anything. It's just like crowdfunding now. If we had crowdfunding back in the 90s like we have now, oh my God, it would have changed everything.
Yeah, for sure.
It would have changed everything. And the problem is now the quote unquote mainstream, which is DC and Marvel, their artists and their writers are getting ticked because of late payments and stuff. And they're seeing the crowdfunding guys make money, and they're making 30,000, 40,000, 50, 100 million, 3 million. They're like, wait a minute, they're making all this money. And speaking of that, one of their big art writers did do a crowdfunding on what was it? Kickstarter raised $30,000. Is 2 years late. Hasn't made a post in 6 months.
Whew.
Yeah, and it's I want to say it's Dan Slots, or is it the other guy? But it's one of those guys, and yet they're the ones on Twitter nailing everybody else saying, "Oh, your project's late." And they're like, "It's the same guy." I'm like, really? You took $30,000 and haven't produced anything in 2 years?
Yeah.
I mean, my campaign. I can tell you this on my campaign right now. My campaign's, and I did get a letterer, so I have a letterer on staff. He's doing the first 9 pages now. So
Yeah.
we're going to have the first. I'm going to put it like this: it's going to be black and white. They're not going to be colored, but you're going to see the first 9 pages. You're going to get to read the first 9 pages of my graphic novel on Indiegogo.
Cool.
So you're going to see the first 9 pages. So this notion of, well, I don't back a campaign unless I can read something. Well, you're going to get to read on the Steins. You're going to get to read the first 9 pages. You're going to just see the artwork. So I'm not playing on this. I think the way everything's been going, how many people has gone over to see the campaign, how many people has been supporting the campaign, and we haven't even launched yet. I think it's going to be this. I think this campaign is going to explode. I think it's going to explode when it goes out, and I think it's going to be a very good, profitable campaign.
I definitely hope that for you.
Well, I mean, I'm planning, the perks and everything like that, and we got, we get to, like I said, we get to 50 grand, it goes to 60 pages. We get to 100 grand, it's going to go to 100 pages.
Yeah.
And that's the whole stick. So can you imagine a 100-page graphic novel for $25?
Yeah. I think that's about average, especially today.
Well, I'm talking about for Indiegogo and stuff. You're getting 48, mainly what the main stuff is. But you hit that benchmark of 100K, there's going to be 100 pages of all.
Yeah.
It's going to be storyline. It's not going to be 24 pages and then pinups the rest of the thing. No, it's going to be storyline going all the way through.
That is definitely good. It is hard getting to that 100,000 mark for sure.
The other thing is on my campaign is you're going to be able to get the novels. So not only are you going to be able to get the graphic novel, you're going to get the novels too.
Yeah.
So you're going to get to see. You're going to get everything of the Steins.
Yeah, definitely good for sure.
Yeah. So it's, like I said, it's going to be a completely different campaign than any campaign that's been done in Comicsgate or on Indiegogo. It's going to be, you're going to get the novel, all 3 novels. You're going to be able to get the graphic novel. So you're going to be able to get everything. And like I said, it's going to be really good. And it's going to be fun. I mean, I got a huge amount of people helping on it. I got Peter Gilmore. I've got Shelby Robertson. I got Joe Sontag. I've got Gabriel Taib. So, I've got huge help on that. Plus, this mystery artist, which I'll be naming this coming week, is also going to be on there. So, it's quite a big group of people working on this. Now, of course, I'm doing the inside pages of all those, which you're looking at some major. I mean, I got major artwork on that. So, but again, you're going to be able to read you're going to be able to see and read the first 9 pages of the graphic novel on Indiegogo.
Well, that's good.
So,
how many pages is it going to be to start with?
48. We're going to start at 48. And then, like I said, we get to 50,000, we'll go to 60. We get 100,000, we'll go to 100.
Yeah. So it starts with 48, you said?
Yeah, 48 pages. Because I already got 9 drawn. I mean, I wanted to give you guys a good story. And when I'm looking at the story and how it's pacing, it's going to need at least just where I need to get it, and where I would like to get it finished when I, if I had to go to 100 pages, I've already got it set to go to 100 pages.
Yeah.
So there's 3 different benchmarks. There's the 48, the 60, and then the 100.
Cool.
And then I've got more story after that, because you have to understand, this story is starting where it all begins. And from where it all begins to the novels is 500 years.
That's a lot of time.
That's a lot of space I can put stuff in.
Yep, for
You know.
sure.
Rick, you want to tell us about something about your comic a little bit?
I guess I could. What do I say? I'm not even sure what to say. Yeah,
Oh,
oh,
while you're thinking about it,
yeah.
one of the other things I covered this past week was the Marvel releases as well. There were some interesting titles that were starting up past week, including one featuring Joe Fixit, the Grey Hulk, and Scarlet Witch. Their features they're apparently they're getting some feature books that are starting up. So that was a little interesting tidbit as well. Anyways, Rick,
Guess I could say, I have a real expansive universe. Yeah, I've got two characters right now. I'm working up to getting 7 books out. Well, 7 out or 8 books if you include them teamed up as a group. My 7 main characters. So I've got lots of plans there and lots of storylines that are going to, as the books come out, be put out. I've got like 5 year mark, 6 year marks, 4 year mark, 2 year mark. All some storylines at those points marked out. I don't got the details, but I got them marked out.
all right. Let's see. Well, actually, also Rick will be joining me this Friday when we go over, when we go over the beginning of Marvel. Um, we talk about how Marvel and DC are dying out. Well, as you guys know, I've been doing a historical comic retrospect on Friday nights.
Yeah.
Um, actually, we ended up almost going 3 hours this past Friday for the DC stuff because there was quite a bit going on in August of 1939. I'll tell you that much right now.
Oh, there
Um,
was a bunch of stuff going on in 39. Oh boy.
well, as I mentioned before, of course, there was the start. Marvel was starting out as Timely Comics. Harvey Comics was starting out with Speed Comics #1. And this was, of course, this was still a few years before they introduced Casper and Richie Rich and Little Audrey
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
and those the characters they became known for. But also, of course, it was also the debut of Bill Everett's Amazing Man, not to be confused with DC Amazing Man Will Everett, but Bill Everett Amazing Man in Centaur Comics Amazing Man Comics #5. But to go back to what Tim and I were covering this past Friday, so at DC back in August of 1939, you had Detective Comics 31 with the first of the two-part story of Batman versus the Vampire, Batman versus the Mad Monk, basically, and this was significant in that it was Batman's first battle with a supernatural enemy or a superpowered enemy. This was the first appearance of his first love interest, Julie Madsen, his fiance. This is the first use of the bat gyro and a batarang. Okay, you
A
also
lot of firsts there.
Yeah. This was also the month of the return of the Ultra Humanite. We didn't actually read that story though because it was also the month that in Action Comics #17 you had the return of the Ultra Humanite, basically Superman's third encounter with him. You had the return of Gora, who was the primary enemy of Tex Thompson. So essentially, some pretty interesting stuff going on there. And then, of
And
course, you
that
had the first issue of Mutt and Jeff as well, even though it was
uh,
not numbered.
and then that one story was very agorable.
Oh, the Tex Thompson story. Yeah, you
Yeah,
were there. Yeah, Rick, you'll be joining me when we go over Marvel's early
yeah.
history. So, and I'm actually, even though I wasn't expecting to go 3 hours for the DC week, I am expecting to go 3 hours this week because we got a lot to cover there with Marvel
Yeah.
Comics #1. Of course, we're going to be.
Any characters that you know that we're going to be reading, or?
Oh yeah, well, again, there was only one book, Marvel Comics #1, and a grand total of 40 pages we'll be reading. 16 pages for the origin of the Human Torch. Now, mind you, this is not Johnny Storm.
No, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah. For those who don't know,
yeah.
before
Johnny
Johnny
Storm,
Storm,
the more famous Human Torch.
yeah, before Johnny Storm, there was an android Human
Yeah.
Torch who debuted in Marvel Comics #1. 12 pages for Namor the Submariner, and 12 pages for Kazar. Those are the three main characters that debuted in Marvel Comics #1 back in August of 19. Now, mind you, remember, I go by on sale date, not cover date. Usually, if it went on sale in August of 39, it means that the cover date was September or October of that year. So just
Yeah.
So
It's just like Detective Comics 27. It's when on the month it was released, my dad was born, so it's it's the same thing. So
yeah,
that's how I remember it. So I was like, okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So when does Cap make his first appearance?
What's that?
When does Cap make his first appearance in Timely comic?
Well, Captain America, I think it's like 40. I think it's 41. I don't know off the top of my head because I haven't looked that far ahead yet.
Yeah, I think it is 41.
So we got a couple of years before we get
title right off
America.
the bat too. Captain America Comics.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, but what we'll be doing on Friday, of course, is we'll of course go over read a portion of the early history of Marvel / Timely from Marvel Wiki fandom. Just kind of the first paragraph or two of that history. Then we'll be going quickly through a portion of the character histories in terms of just focusing in on like powers, abilities, weaknesses, that kind of thing. Obviously, we don't usually read the entire biographies because the biographies can be quite a long read too, and usually they're not necessary because we will see it as we're reading it, obviously. And then we'll get into as I said, 40 pages worth of content of those three features. So that will be a 3-hour show. So that's what I'm prepping for. But that it's been fun, it's been fun, sharing that information with people and getting that, And Rick, you came in for a few minutes there as well when we were reading. I guess you caught us when we were reading the Tex Thompson story, with the Gora. Yeah. Yeah, actually, Tim asked me something because I'd mentioned to you guys too before about Amazing Man Comics #5, and that was and I mentioned, I don't know if you were there when I was talking about this earlier in the broadcast, Rick, but some books did not start with #1. Some books would start out like in the case of Amazing Man Comics, it started out with #5. And nobody knows why either. There's some comics where
it's probably something
missing. Like I know even with adventure comics, there was a slew of numbers that was just missing. Like for whatever reason, they don't exist.
Well, it's probably something like it had a different name beforehand, and it went into Amazing Man because maybe he was the main feature, and that's what everybody likes. So they switched it over to his name.
Was any book prior to that before for that particular book or any of the books that we're talking about? Because I know Keen Detective Comics, which was a book published by Centaur, it started out I think at issue #7 or something like that, and again, nobody knows what happened or maybe it started out 5, but for whatever reason, sometimes they just started at like #5, and you're sitting there scratching. Where are the first 4 issues? What happened?
Yeah. I think it's more they changed the title name, mid thing, and nobody realizes that it's supposed to be connected to this other set of books, and it may be a different publisher, beforehand. So
Yeah, but there would
because back in that,
think there would have been. I think there would have been some evidence of that because we've seen in later books where that has actually happened, particularly with a lot of Dell and Gold Key books, where a particular book would start out with Dell, go up to a certain point, like for example, Chip and Dale. The first 31 issues of Chip and Dale were for Dell, and then all the issues after that were Gold Key. I get that part because I've seen that happen. But but with this, it's likely that that could be the case, but there just doesn't seem to be any evidence.
Yeah, well, it could be just that whatever company before it was called beforehand, nobody remembers, and for some reason, all the paperwork's been lost or whatever. That's what I would think, but obviously, I can't prove that theory.
Right. Nobody can. That's why there's but well, when we do get to that in a couple weeks here, when we cover Centaur and David McKay at the end of the month here, we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll probably go over to GCD and read up on that a bit because I know GCD will probably have some notation on it as to why that may have happened. But and just in case you guys are wondering, I type stuff like this in just to try to get YouTube to recognize that there actually are people in here. They just You see the comments I'm making here. Hello again. We're still here, StreamYard.
Yeah, we see them.
So let's see. Actually, there was one other death that I would have wanted to hear you comment on a little bit that we were talking about last week, James. I don't. Back on Christmas Day, the founder of Studio Pero passed away at the age of 75.
Yeah. That one was kind of hard because he did a lot of work on a lot of things. The thing that we got going on right now, and like I said before, we have this this group of men and women who are all around the same age. It's like the generation before the image generation. Okay, that generation is starting to check out, and you're going to see more and more of these actors, artists, animators, and stuff.
Executives, all that,
especially some of the founders, some of the people that were there at the beginning. They're already checking out. They're already leaving. There's not very many left. I mean, there really isn't. And if they're going to be at a convention,
the guy's name is Yuji Nunokawa. That's what it is. And he founded Pero Company Limited back in May of 1979. And just to remind people, for those who may not know who we're talking about or what we're talking, Studio Pero, of course, is the studio that gave us Yu Yu Hakusho, Bleach, Naruto, the first 3 seasons of the classic Urusei Yatsura before Studio Ghibli took over.
Yeah, I mean, this studio is really well famous. It's just like I said, these people are going out, and it's going to be tough. Probably the next 4 or 5 years is going to be tough.
And before you continue, Jim, I'm sorry. Hey, Woody, welcome to the stream. I'm glad you're here. Hey, Jim Lee. Hi, Mike. Yeah.
Hey, no hi for me, Woody. Well, I'll say hey back to you anyways, or hey to you, or hi.
Yeah, all right. I'm sorry about that, Jane. I wanted.
Yeah, it's just going to be a sad time because look at last year. We lost Neil Adams, we lost George Perez, we lost Tim Sale, we lost so many people. So many people last year, and this year, I don't see it slowing down. I think we're going to lose some really good people. That it's just age and things happen. And, it's like even myself, I'm not 20 anymore. I'm not in my 30s anymore. I'm in my 50s now. And, these guys were 30, 40s, 50-year-olds when I was in my 20s. So that generation, I mean, it's just happening. And it's going to be probably the next 4 or 5 years. We're going to see this generation, especially artists and actors and stuff, go. And
Well,
bad
I mean,
thing is, you don't have the
on
quality.
the more mainstream front, I'm sure you heard about Barbara Walters passing away.
Without doubt, I knew, but yeah, I know. But when you go and you start looking at everything in the Japanese world, there's people to replace them. There's really good people in place to take over. Here in the United States, not so much. You don't have the quality of actors, the producers, directors that we had back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. You don't have them. You don't have the strong writers, especially for movie scripts and stuff like you did back then. I mean, okay, Cameron's an enigma, but Cameron's not young anymore. I think he's 60 now, 60, 62. So he's not young anymore. It's you gotta find some young people that are going to be great at doing things. And right now we don't have it. We've gone, I mean, Hollywood as general. And this is the thing.
Well, I know about I
This is
know
going to
about
be
a month ago. Well, no.
this is going to be the difference between DC, Marvel, and Valiant and IDW. DC and Marvel is going to be around because of Disney and Warner Brothers. They're the parent companies.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll keep them alive just to keep the IPs alive. But when you have nothing there, everything else is going to crumble. And that's
Or they will keep some of it alive. I think more in the movies and that, but
well,
if
they got to have some kind of book going for the IP because the IP is based on a book.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, I think
but if they keep giving us stuff like Pregnant Joker or Chocolate Velma.
Well, okay. Here's the thing. I'll explain this. Here's the thing everybody's forgetting. Well, here's the thing everybody's forgetting, and this is very important. Okay, when a investing bank comes out, okay, and blows a gasket, and this is Sasko. This is the main bank that gives money to Disney and Warner Brothers. When that bank came out and blew a gasket about their returns, that's what got Chapek in trouble because that woke the investors up. And you have to understand something about the chief financial officer of a company. The chief financial officer of a company, when they see something like this going down, they have to, under contract and under their job title, must report all this action to the board of directors and to the investors and to the investing bank. That is part of their job. So this notion that I saw on Twitter, oh, she stabbed him in the back because she wanted to take over. No, she did her job. That is the job. Okay. If you don't know anything about business, that's the job of this chief financial marketing director.
Okay.
Okay.
If you can hold your thought for just a moment, because Rick, I think Woody has some responses for you here. You might want to read there.
Yeah, I've read them, and I say excuses, excuses, excuses.
Rick, my phone had an ad or something. Go and then, well, there it is. Mike's quote line overlays cross comics in phone information.
Well, and I've got two things to say to that. A, your thing wasn't up to cover it at that time because he hadn't said anything. And what's the other thing? Even if it was, you see Canadian Shield Snowdrift, you should have known it was me by that. And of course, I just tease.
Yeah, I wanted to acknowledge Woody there just real quick. All right, James, continue. Sorry, but
so when that investing bank blew a gasket, Chapek was gone. Now I can tell you what's fixing to happen at Disney because Warner Brothers just did it. You're going to see 25,000 people lose their job at Disney, starting probably February. At least 25,000 people will be let go. They have to fix their money issues, and they don't have any money. They have nothing to bargain on. The only thing right now they could use to barter to get money is going to be their theme parks, and they're not going to do that. They do have cash at hand, but they need a lot more because they lost billions of dollars last year.
Well, I can. Yeah, I know. Disney is really shooting itself in the foot because
Disney is
going back to Chapek because my sister was telling me that she basically gave up her Disney membership, or pass or whatever, because of some stuff that Chapek said about about customers and fans and all that.
Well, let me explain something. This is the stupidity of Chapek. Okay, Chapek was trying to really bolster the streaming service. That was his goal, was to push that into this mega billion-dollar company. It didn't happen. The problem is all these Marvel shows like She-Hulk, when it came out that he was spending $25 million an episode on those shows to promote them for streaming, that's unbelievably stupid. Okay, you don't spend that kind of money unless you're going to send it to the box office. $25 million an episode. They made 12 episodes. Do the math. That's over $300 million.
25 million for a
did they only make 10 episodes?
10 or 12, I don't remember. But we're talking $250 to $300 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
For a TV show.
For a TV show, yes. That's insane. That is unbelievably insane. And that's not the only one that bombed. His movies, their last animated movie lost them $100 million. Their movies are not making money. They're losing money. That's why the investors and that bank went ballistic. They saw the reports. And the problem is, you can sit here and get on your high horse, talk about, oh, we're going to be diverse, we're going to do this with the LGBT community, whatever. If you don't have returns coming back in, it's done. Okay? Now, Warner Brothers Discovery, and I'll explain the difference between the two companies here. Discovery had a war chest. They were completely out of debt. They had a war chest. When they took over Warner Brothers under AT&T had a $50 billion debt. That means $50 billion in the hole.
That's billions with a B.
yeah, that's how bad it was. It actually almost ballooned to $80 billion. Okay. Zaslav was brought in to fix that mess. Okay. As an investor, I know what's going on in WB. Mm-hmm. He came in and he went to town. That's why he got rid of the CW. That's why he canceled all that stuff. When he saw the stuff that was quote unquote the Batgirl, he cut it at 80 million. It was going to be over 250 million by the time they got done in investments and the ads and everything. It wasn't done. It was done shooting. It wasn't done. Special effects hadn't been done. None of the secondary shootings had been done. None of that's been done. Okay, so everything they put on Twitter and all that stuff was BS. Even now with the new stuff coming out, showing parts of the movie on Twitter, the movie looked like garbage. Okay, when you have movies that are done that are in the can, that means Black Adam was in the can, Flash was in the can. There's another one that's coming. The Shazam was in the can. They're done. They're finished. They're ready to go. Release them. Try to make some kind of money back. Okay. In my opinion, Black Adam was released in the wrong time of the year. I think it would have done a lot better than if it had been released in the summer instead of the winter. But again, what's hindsight?
Well, there was huge debates going on with whether or not they should release the Flash film due to the stuff.
Okay, here's the thing about the Flash. It's done. Release it, get it out there, try to make some money. Because if you don't release it, you're going to take a $290 million hit. Okay.
Yeah, at least you might be able to make $100 million.
If the movie is done, get it out there. Okay. If it's done, get it out there. Mm-hmm. You know, now what James Gunn was brought in to do was to put everything together and organize it and stuff, which is going to take him a year to do, maybe a year and a half to do. The problem is he needs a PR person to get out there and start doing PR work for him because he's doing a terrible job. He's doing an awfully terrible job. That being said, with Zaslav and the other properties, when Zaslav sent that message to Amazon, that was a serious message because now it's come out. Amazon does not own the rights to the Lord of the Rings. Warner Brothers does. And he made it perfectly clear to Amazon. That's why Amazon, if you didn't notice, went after Netflix and Wednesday. Because why? The Addams family is owned by MGM. Amazon owns MGM. Netflix does not. That's why you haven't seen a season 2. I think season 2 just got announced, but that's why the season 2 hadn't been announced for so long, was because there was a fight with that. So right now, Hollywood's fighting over what properties can make them money and make it quick, because the investors and the banks are getting pissed. And when the banks start getting pissed, movies end up getting cut. And
well,
movies
I think there's a whole chunk of middle America that's not too happy with mainstream Hollywood to begin with.
Okay,
And if you don't have people going to the theaters to pay for these movies, that's gonna stick.
That's not what hurts Hollywood. I'll tell you what hurts Hollywood is, yes, it is mainstream America when they don't go see the movies. When the movie is not profitable and it goes into the red, that upsets investors because they get zero returns. Until investors and banks start getting returns on their money they're lending out, it's going to be harder and harder for these movies to get made and stuff. The problem is they're so far in debt, they're going to have to do so much damage control. I don't see anything major, super wise, X-Men was. If you haven't heard, Phase 5 is on hold. Everything in Phase 5 is on hold. They're not shooting anything. They're not doing
Phase 5.
Marvel. It's on hold. They told Feige everything's on hold. Everything is on hold. TV shows, movies, everything's on hold.
Does that include that new X-Men continuation they were trying to do, X-Men 97?
No, that's already in the can.
Huh.
See, Deadpool is still over at Sony. So it's a conglomeration with Deadpool. So Deadpool's still going. But everything else is on hold. I mean, they're really on hold. Now, Ant and Wasp movie, that's done. It's ready to go as well. But I mean, they're having to hold everything up. They're having to fix everything. And the other thing is they're going to start looking. I know Zaslav called for an audit on DC Comics. He wants to see what's going on with that money. And that may be a big indication that they're fixing to do something on that. I know what I would do if I owned DC Comics, but I'm not going to say it because, somebody will say, well, an investor was saying this on a channel, so I'm not going to say what I would do. But it would be a major shakeup. I would make it profitable again. I know how to do it. I know what to do. But that's another story. There's just that's Marvel. Same thing with DC.
You would almost get the impression that with the way things are going with these companies, these people must have migrated here from Bizarro World or
no,
something. The only people I could see who would think that losing money was a good thing would be Bizarro.
No, that's not what you had. That's not what you had.
I think this would even be bizarre for Bizarro World.
This is not what you had. You had a bunch of people that were in there that wanted to be politically correct and make political statements with their movies. And Hollywood is really, I mean, you can go back in the 60s and stuff. They did that, but on a limited budget, and they knew they needed the big blockbusters, and they kept rolling the big blockbusters out. What happened was that limited group got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and so they went. You had like a guy named Hamada at Warner Brothers who basically decided that, and I don't know why he was thinking this, he was going to cut out all male leads and just go with female characters. That's where Batgirl was coming in, Supergirl was coming in, all these characters were coming in to take over, and it was going to tank. And this is where Black Adam, Dwayne Johnson, and then had this major, hey, it's Mr. Fu. Got Fui. How you doing? But this major, hit on each other. And I think it would have been better for Dwayne Johnson with Black Adam if he wouldn't have tried to do his hostile move to take over DC Comics. If he wouldn't have done that, I think he could have stayed around. And I think if Black Adam would have been profitable, you would have seen the second Black Adam movie and Justice Society, but it didn't resonate.
If you can hold on for just 1 second here, let me acknowledge Mr. Yanafu. Hello, Mr. Yanafu. Sometimes I imagine that in reality there are executives who want to sabotage other executives to take away their properties.
if we were back in the 70s and 60s, I would say yes. But the problem is now with the way everything is going, except for Zaslav, they're all on the same page.
Hand pink waving, and then Woody replied, "So good to see you, Mr. Yanafui." Okay, so
I mean, that's the problem. Zaslav is not from Hollywood. Zaslav came from Europe, and he runs it like a European company, which is I got to be profitable, I got to get us in the black, and I got to do it now. And that's what he's doing. The problem is with Disney is Disney had a guy in there that was totally out of whack and messed everything up, and now they got to do fire control. And Iger's in there, and then Iger comes out and makes his statements, and it's like, hey, the board of directors calls him in and says, nope, we're not doing it that way. We got to fix this. Now they're going to do layoffs. Now they're going to have to do pricing controls. Now they're going to have to do all this stuff, and it's going to be hard. I mean, it's going to be tough on Disney. What I think is going to happen with Disney is they're going to end up having to sell off Fox. They're going to end up having to sell off ABC. They're going to end up having to sell off. I mean, they're going to have to hold on to ESPN because that's the only thing that's keeping them alive. But the other stuff they got to get rid of. They got to sell it off. They've got to. And the only company big enough to buy that stuff is going to be Apple. And I think Apple will take some things, but I don't think they're going to take the whole thing. It's Disney is a complete dumpster fire right now.
Yeah. So what are you saying? You provide much quality entertainment. You mean me or we as a group or what there, Woody?
No, it's just, I'm just talking as an investor, you get all these reports, and I'm seeing what's going on at DC, and I'm like, okay, this is.
Yeah, when it comes to DC, Warner Brothers, you're our insider there.
Yeah, but there's some things I don't even know as an investor. I mean, I don't own enough stock where I can go up there and just start causing problems. I mean, I own quite a bit, but I'm not. I mean, I don't have the controlling. There's two guys that have the controlling, and they're both billionaires, and I'm not. So I can't compete against those guys.
Well, I do remember that months ago there was another one of the investors who just went on a tear.
That wasn't Disney. That was at Disney. That was at Disney. Yeah, I know exactly. There's two investors over at Disney that are raising hell like you wouldn't believe, and both of them together. If they got together with their stock, they could take over Disney. They've got enough stock between the two of them to give them that 50.1%. But the problem is they don't get along. So that's where they're at. I mean, if they work together, see, that's the whole thing. Investors, like, say if I got it, there's three guys in Warner Brothers. If I got with them and we took all of our stocks together, we could probably get 50.1% of the stock. We probably could. The problem is once you get it, what do you do with it and who's in charge of it? Because there's 4 or 5 of you together. That's the whole thing.
How do you manage it?
Basically. But the thing is, us, the investors in Warner Brothers, we like Zaslav. I really like Zaslav. Mm-hmm. And so, we're sticking behind him. That's why he's still doing like that. And that's why our stock, if you haven't noticed, went up 42%. Mm-hmm. So, I'm very happy my stock went up like it did. I was tired of seeing it go down. And
based on everything I've been hearing too, it's like you could almost argue that David Zaslav would seem to be the Rock of the of the business world because what he's basically doing in the business world, what the Rock used to do when he was in the WWE, where he would shine his foot up real nice.
Yeah.
Straight up your candy, you know what?
Yeah. No, I'll explain Zaslav as 100%. Zaslav is a business director from Europe. He is not from California. He does not play politics. He looks at numbers. He goes, where can I fix this and how do I fix it? And he has good advisors with him. And when he moves quick, he moves fast, and he fixes stuff really quick. But he has to have all the data. He doesn't move until he gets all the data, which is something I really enjoy watching done. And this is something that has to be done. It has to be controlled. because you only get one shot at it. This is what I mean. You can go read my tweets. I told James Gunn one thing. I said, "You got one shot at this." I said, "You got one shot at turning DC comics around, DC movies around. You can't screw this up." I made that perfectly clear on Twitter.
Yeah.
And somebody came back going, "You don't have stock." I was like, "Oh yes, I do."
Shooting himself in the foot, right?
No,
Yeah.
Gunn. But this is what I think's happened with Gunn, and if it is, it's a good thing, but it's a bad thing. There's a gag order in play. Gunn is not saying anything till an actor says something, and then he's replying to it. But all in all, when it comes to DC movie, there's a gag order. So Kotaku, IBM, all them, they have no clue what's going on. None. Zero. Zilch. They're scratching at the walls. They cannot get any information because of this gag order. And most likely this gag order is, if you speak, we're going to fire you. That's probably what the gag order is. Now, that's my guess at it, because his other partner that's been with him, if you notice him, hasn't tweeted in months. He has disappeared off social media.
I'm just not sure how well James Gunn's gonna do. I saw the one thing he's done for DC already, Peacemaker. I just finished watching that.
No, he did the first Suicide Squad too.
Okay, well, I saw that too. They were iffy, in my opinion.
Well, Peacemaker. I'll explain about Peacemaker. Peacemaker was a trial to see if they could run a TV show with minor characters, not use the big guns, to see if it worked. And let's face it, John Cena did a really good job. I was surprised by him. He did a really good job, and it pulled in fans. It was very popular. I mean, it wasn't wildly popular, but it was very popular. So there's that. I really think you're going to see a couple more series on HBO. And I think when it comes to the movies, and you have to understand something, Henry Cavill as Superman, yes, as a quick fix would be great. But you can't have Henry Cavill go Superman for another 10 years. He's not in his 20s and early 30s anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's better to start looking at fixing stuff now than try to keep going. And as for Zack Snyder, I'm going to make this perfectly clear. Zack Snyder is scum of the earth. I don't ever want to see him on a Warner Brothers property ever again. I don't care to even see him personally after the crap he pulled when he took all that money from the charity and then dumped on everybody. That is the coldest, stupidest thing I've ever seen.
And he dumped on everybody in the charity that he took. Okay.
If you don't know, Mike, Geeks and Gamers and everybody raised over $100,000 for a charity for him. He took the money, then he trashed everybody on live stream. And he made everybody look like complete and utter idiots.
Oh, wait, I think you did mention that before, didn't you? I think you did.
Yeah. Okay, I saw it live. At that point, I said, I never want to see him on a property again. Now, as for
that's real asinine what he did.
Now, as for the Zack Snyder cut that everybody on Twitter was talking about, the fans pulled this. It is a proven fact that 1/3 of everybody that did things for that was a bot. It was a setup from his corporation to get it done. They did not make a profit off that whole thing. And yeah, it's good. I do like it, but that's going to be it. I don't want to see him ever do anything again.
Yeah. The Snyder cut was all right, but it was too long, in my opinion.
Now, as what he's bringing up about James Gunn and Tiki's Black Superman thing, that is not happening. And I'll tell you why. James Gunn, not James Gunn, but what is his name that did Star Wars for Disney? Who was the guy that got to do the first two the Force Awakens?
Oh, J.J. Abrams?
Thank you. Yeah, J.J. Abrams. Here's what's going on with J.J. Abrams. Warner Brothers gave him $260 million to do a project for them. What did he do? He formed his company and went to work for AT&T and took the money. Zaslav right now is talking to attorneys to sue him for the $260 million. you can barely guarantee he's not going to be doing anything for Warner Brothers anytime soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that once before too. With
Yeah, there's a whole J.J. Abrams, in my opinion, is pretty pathetic also. And this whole thing. This is why I was saying we don't have these. I mean, you don't have these producers that can do anything. I mean, we got to have really good, strong.
except apparently steal your money.
Well, we need great producers, we need great directors, and we got to find them fast, especially DC
Yeah.
movies. Now, if I was going to do DC movies, first movie I'd look at is Superman, second Batman, third Wonder Woman, fourth Justice League, fifth Justice Society. I'd run those 5. Anything else, to hell with it.
I get where you're coming from, but in some ways I say yes, in some ways I say no, because as much as I like those characters, I think they need. We've been so saturated with well, especially Batman and Superman movies.
We haven't had a Superman movie in 13 years.
Yeah, but what I more mean just like like a good majority of DC movies are Batman or Superman.
Okay.
Over the
No,
years.
I'm saying actually have one that has
overall, Rick.
Pardon it?
Are you talking about overall, like?
Yeah, overall,
like history wise.
Yeah, if you want to go history,
yeah,
yes. I'm talking about your big money makers. Okay, the 2 big money makers is Superman and Batman. Okay,
I can agree.
That's the big money makers. Okay, and you need to have a conclusive universe with a Superman, a Batman, a Wonder Woman, a Justice League, and Justice Society. Now, why I'm saying that is real simple, okay? And you need to have really good stories to go with them. Okay?
Yeah, that I agree, definitely.
For thank no God Patty Jenkins is no longer attached to anything. Oh God. She's done. She's out of there. She's even lost her Star Wars movie. So she may not have anything going on right now. But
if you do Superman, I don't think you can include Luthor. I know he's
no, you don't do Lex Luthor. No, you don't do Lex Luthor. You do Brainiac.
I wouldn't do Brainiac for a first movie.
I would. I definitely would do
Brainiac. Which Brainiac though?
The bad one,
or the
bad
android,
one.
or what?
Yeah, the android Brainiac. Yeah, that's the one I would use. Batman, you got to have a consistent Batman. Okay, you can't have 50,000 Batmans running around doing 50,000 movies. Got to have consistency with that. Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot, hands down, got to keep her. Let her run, give her a better movie, better script, and everything to go with. Here's where the fun movies go. Justice League, Justice Society. This is where you can bring in other characters. Okay. You can bring in Hawkman, you can bring in Power Girl, you can bring in these other characters to fill those 2 movie roles and let them run. That's where those are the 2. If you want to bring Black Adam in for Justice Society, you could bring him in there. You can do all this stuff. Now, depending on how Shazam goes with this second movie, I think in the second movie, I would personally have Dwayne Johnson come in as Black Adam at the end of that movie. Because you need to have Black Adam show up in the Shazam movie. It's got to happen.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to go
Adam was one of Shazam's arch, aside from, of course, along with Dr. Sivana as well. Those 2 were probably the most ardent of Shazam's
villains.
Captain Marvels. But I don't think it's going to do too well because the villains aren't well known. They hinted at Dr. Sivana or Mr. Mind, the caterpillar at the end of the last movie. They should have went with him as the villain.
Yeah, I know, but we just, it's just one of those things. There's just so much stuff that's involved. And
they went with gods.
Well, I do know, and this is rumor, so I don't know if it actually happened. I know Gunn sat down with Jim Lee. So I don't know what happened there. I really wish I did know what happened, but I don't. So, it's just one of those things. But they got time to fix it.
Yeah.
But he needs to get a PR person out. The PR person needs to come out saying, look, folks, we're having to reset everything. It's going to be 1.5 years before we have any really good movies coming out for you when it comes to the DCU. But trust us, we are looking at doing a fantastic Superman movie, a great Batman movie, a great Wonder Woman movie. Give them titles. So we do not have actors in place yet. We do not have teams in place yet. But once we do, we're going to be the first ones to tell you. But do not believe Kotaku. Do not believe IDW. Do not believe it, because we have placed a gag order for anybody working on the projects. So nobody's speaking with the press. When we get everything in place, we'll bring it out to you. So until then, please bear with us and please give us some time.
I think the other thing they really need to do with the Shazam movies is call him Captain Marvel in the movies.
Can't do it.
Well, they own the copyright, DC. They don't own the trademark, so they can't title it Captain Marvel. But they could call him Captain Marvel in the movie because they own the copyright.
But then you'd have a legal fight between trademark and copyright. That's why they don't do it.
Yeah, I think they should go with it just because I think it'd be worth it for the fans. Because everybody knows. Because I don't consider Carol Danvers or any of the ones on Marvel Captain Marvel.
Well,
Shazam or whatever you want to call him is Captain Marvel. He doesn't have a real name.
Let's talk about
Billy Batson's Captain Marvel is who we're talking about, of course. The character who was original.
I know who it is. I know all about that whole storyline.
So. I think he's saying it for anybody listening that might not know.
Yeah.
But who debuted in Wiz Comics #1 back in 1940 for Fawcett Comics, created by Otto Binder and C.C. Beck.
So let's talk about the disaster of Carolyn Danvers. I'm going to bring this up because this is very important about who she is, who she was, and like that. Okay, Carolyn Danvers originally was Ms. Marvel. Okay, yeah. When Ms. Marvel was designed, she was specifically designed to be Marvel's version of Supergirl. Okay, that's what she was designed to be. That's what she looked. If you look at her power set and everything like that, that's what she was doing. But everybody knew it. Everybody saw it, and everybody started raising hell about it. That she was a rip-off character, which she was. I mean, in all actuality, she was a rip-off character. So this is when they made the greatest move in comic book history, when they brought in a small little villain that nobody really paid attention to, nobody cared about her, and they put her in the forefront, and then they moved her to the X-Men. And we're talking about Rogue. Okay, you look at how Rogue got her powers and everything, and why she went to the X-Men. It was a brilliant move because it wrote Carolyn Danvers out, and it put Rogue in, and Rogue became Marvel's version of Supergirl with absorption powers who couldn't control her powers. And she had that beautiful look with the skunk hair. Everybody fell in love with her. Everybody felt sorry for her. Everybody wanted to see what happened to her. And then when Mark Silvestri got her, oh my God, did she explode. And then Jim Lee got her. And of course, the rest is history. But, and then Carolyn Danvers came back as, what was it? No, not Nova.
Binary?
Thank you. She came back as Binary. It didn't work there. So then they started.
Binary. Why do I get the suspicion with a name like that they were trying to push some kind of LGBTQ thing?
This was in the
80s. No. It was like a binary star.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Don't even. Yeah, this was 80s. There was nothing LGBTQ going on, so don't even worry about that. So that didn't work. So then they did Captain Marvel and everything like that, and she's never really fit. She's never really been a character that's done well. They have revamped her. I don't know how many times they've relaunched her. I don't know how many times. And it's probably
Carol was good as Miss Marvel, though. Everybody liked her as Miss Marvel.
No, that's why they pulled the plug.
Well, in the black suit.
That's when they pulled it on her. So that's when she got.
James, something just
and now they're trying to make her into a Wonder Woman. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Something just crossed my mind here. You talk about how Carol Danvers, when they brought her in as Miss Marvel, she was designed to be kind of Marvel's answer to Power Girl.
Supergirl.
Supergirl.
Yeah, Supergirl.
Yeah,
Supergirl.
because
if you look at her,
one thing I also remember is Supergirl originally in DC was named Linda Danvers, or that was her Earth name.
Yeah. I mean, they did it on purpose. They really, because they had brought in Gladiator, and when Gladiator came in, he was Marvel Superman. I mean, you look at Gladiator, he is Superman.
Oh yeah,
he's Superman 100%. And I mean,
pretty much.
He was the first version of Superman to come in. Now,
I'm actually surprised
the whole thing
didn't do Marvel over that, considering how they went after Captain Marvel for less.
The thing about it is,
but different times
with Carolyn Danvers' characters. When Feige started doing all this stuff with DC, he was giving them characters. I mean, Disney didn't know the stories. When Disney started seeing sales of, they greenlighted Ms. Marvel, the new version, which you haven't noticed. The creator of that comic book character is no longer with Marvel. She vanished. She left. She's not there. Nobody's seen her. She went underground.
I wonder why.
The creator you're talking about?
Yeah, for the new Ms. Marvel, the Arab girl.
Oh, Kamala Khan.
Yeah, she's gone underground. She's got some legal problems with some male employees. It seems she's not this squeaky clean person. She may be getting some federal charges against her. So yeah, she's gone underground. So now, if you haven't noticed, because they brought in Ms. Rambeau, who was, of course, the first Captain Marvel, the female Captain Marvel version, first female Captain Marvel, not the Captain Marvel. She's going to be in the Marvels movie that they're going to do, because now they're putting all three of them together. Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel.
And she was sort of given her Rambeau was sort of given her powers in Scarlet Witch thing.
Yeah. So we're going to see all three of them, because they just cannot get the Brie Larson, even as Carolyn Danvers. Brie Larson's not doing too good as that because of the media and stuff like that. They're grasping at straws, and it's not going to go well. Again, it's not going to go well. The problem you have is you've got an IP now that is the greatest IP in Marvel history that you're sitting on. And you really can't do nothing until 2025. But when you
Which one's that?
X-Men.
Oh.
They got the IP back. When they bought Fox, they got the IP back.
Yeah.
The problem is all the actors and everybody is still locked down until 2025. And so
I wouldn't say the greatest. I think Spider-Man's probably the greatest character.
If you look at sales, when the X-Men came in the 80s, 90s, the X-Men sales went through the roof and outsold Spider-Man. When Jim Lee got X-Men, that was it. It was over. Yeah. Even when McFarlane got Spider-Man 1, the sales between X-Men number 1 and Spider-Man 1, X-Men number 1 is still considered one of the greatest sales titles of all time.
Yeah, but I would argue with Spider-Man because he's a lot more well-known. The X-Men as a name might be as equally well-known.
Well, when you start throwing out names, it's either Spider-Man or Wolverine.
Yeah.
That's your two big boys.
That I can agree with.
That's why when the movies were going, originally in the movies, it was going to be Rogue. They were going to play with Rogue, but Jackman was so popular that they switched it to Jackman and moved the movies around him instead of her. But it was supposed to be wrapped around Rogue. And they wrote her out at the end of the second movie.
Was Anna Paquin still playing Rogue at that point? Or?
Yes, if they were going to do an X-Men movie, Anna Paquin would have to come back as Rogue.
Anyway,
which was fantastic over in The Boys.
We're coming up on an hour 45, so I think it might be a good time to start wrapping up here. So before we leave, of course, the last thing we do, of course, on my channel, we do of this day, or in this case, this weekend in Nietzsche history. So, with all that being said, today is January 8th. So we're gonna go over this weekend in Nietzsche history, going back over days of over the last couple of days, January 7th and 8th. Nietzsche, yep. Woody, Nietzsche history. And then after that, of course, we'll close out with everybody, and I see James already put his link in, so you guys can feel that. So, anyways, without any further ado, let's take a look back at this weekend in Nietzsche history. History! And the first thing we're going to look at here, we're going to take a couple of shots at the 7th on this. So, on January 7th, 1973, which was 50 years ago yesterday, the anime Fables of the Green Forest premiered in Japan on Fuji Television, published by Mushi Productions. Fables of the Green Forest premiered on Fuji Television on yesterday's date, back in 1973.
Oh, wow. That's an anime? I did not realize that. I watched that as a kid. I loved
it. You did?
Yeah.
Fables of the Green. Yeah, I mean, Rick, let me tell you something. I didn't know until I started watching anime regularly in the early 2000s here, after I started watching like Yu Yu Hakusho and Dot Hack-Stein and all that. I didn't realize some of those shows I watched as a kid were anime, like Speed Racer and Battle of the Planets and all that. Those were like.
So, you're kidding, right? You're kidding. You didn't know Speed Racer was from Japan?
Not when I was a kid. Not until like I got into anime.
I got told about anime back when Star Blazers hit television and Voltron hit television. And then all of a sudden, here comes the big one.
That Voltron was really animation either.
And then came the big one. When Robotech hit television, that changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't. Well,
Thank you,
I
Woody.
didn't know about anime per se till I was an adult. The word,
right?
The Japanese stuff, and it isn't until recently that I really was putting two to two together about all these old series being animes.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was watching anime. I knew when Robotech rolled up on the screen, I knew that was straight out of Japan. And then I started buying anime in 1988. The first VHS tape I ever bought was Akira. I got that, and then the other two were Star Blazers, not Star Blazers, but Dangyo and Gunbuster. Those are the three I bought. My first three animes I bought.
Now, of course, from when I looked into it a little bit more, that Voltron is actually the combination of two animes, right?
Yep, I own both of them.
Disco Lion and Dairuger 15.
Yep, Dairuger 15 is actually the better one. If you watch the original versions, Dairuger is a much better anime. The storyline is a whole lot better.
The anime version or the version
No, the anime version. They're two different. They're two different, completely different stories, and they fight two different, completely things.
But they somehow try to find a way to merge those two shows together.
Oh, if you think that one's weird, the two that they really merged together, which have nothing to do with each other, was Captain Harlock and the Queen of 1,000 Years, because those are two different. Completely different series. Completely different.
I've heard of Captain Harlock, but haven't heard of the other one.
Yeah, it was Galaxy Express 99999 TV series that they tried to merge with the two, and I mean, they did a really good job of it. They had me fooled, but when you go watch them now, they're different. No, Captain Harlock, the owner and founder of Viz, she is like the ultimate Captain Harlock fan. She actually bought the American rights to Captain Harlock, and she held on those for like forever. Mm-hmm. And then the last movie that came out, I think, was like 2012. They released a movie. Same time the live action Space Battleship Yamato movie came out. There was 2 movies of those, and of course Queen Amaryllis came out and all that stuff. But that whole stuff was toy. Captain Harlock, all of them were toy animations before they dropped Dragon Ball.
Yeah. Well, anyways, let's continue on here. I mean, we
yeah.
can probably...
Sorry for the sidetracking there, Mike.
Sorry. Yeah, I have over 1,000 titles of anime in my house, so I own a massive anime collection.
All right. Well, anyways, getting ready to move on to the next. So, also on what happened on January 7th, 1988, which was 25 years ago, was a passing of Eli Bauer. Now, Eli Bauer was an animation layout and story man and comics artist, having his cartoons appear in such magazines as Saturday Morning. And now, part of the reason why we're featuring this guy passed away on January 7th, 1998, 25 years ago today at the age of 69. This guy was pretty well known for his work on Terry Toons, on his animation work for Terry Toons, and he also apparently was involved with some of the animated spots for Sesame Street as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So
see, they lost. Sesame Street just lost. Not Hooper. The other the
Bob
guy. But yeah,
the white guy Bob.
Yeah, Bob passed away, and one of their producers passed away.
Well, a lot of them are going to start passing away too.
Yeah, I mean they're just everybody's. Like I said, I mean everybody's getting up in age.
Well, I think what people tend to forget is Sesame Street started all the way back. I think it was 69, I believe, was when they first were.
No, 60, like 64, 65. It was way back then.
Yeah. But anyways, getting ready to move on to now for what some of the stuff that happened today on this day in Niche history, as we know. Love that woodpecker.
And Woody, it's this weekend in Niche history, so he's doing both days in the weekend, the 7th and the 8th, because he had mentioned about the 8th.
Yeah. So, anyways, getting ready to move on to the next piece of Niche history here. As on this date, 20 years ago today, on January 8th, 2003. Now, this is kind of an interesting scenario right here. And okay, so on this date, 20 years ago today, Image Comics' 5th issue of Defiance went on sale on this date back in 2003. However, the cover date, and one of those weird circumstances where apparently the cover date is earlier than the on sale date, November 2002.
Yeah, I can explain this stuff with Image. Image is notoriously for shipping books late. Okay, if you weren't around when the Image first launched, they would put out issue 1 in July, and you wouldn't see issue 2 till December. It was that bad. I mean, so the cover date. Don't worry about the cover date. It didn't matter. It was the actual date it came out. That's the whole thing.
Well, that's what I based it on. I always focus on the on sale date because before I started doing the more generalized historical comic retrospect on Fridays, I basically did the same thing, just focusing on DC and all the properties they would get over the years. And for me, one of the things was obviously I wanted to see how the DCU came together. Wanted to really immerse myself in that. So, and what I came to find out was, if you're looking at it from a chronological perspective, the on sale date is the date that is, the calendar date of what was happening in that world. So, like for example, Action Comics, Volume 1, number 17 came out. It went on sale on August 31st, 1939. So the events of that story in the DCU at the time were happening on August 31st, unless otherwise specified, were happening on or around August 31st, 1939. So that's why I like utilizing the on sale date, because that's the more correct correct date. But anyways, so with that, I understand, Rick. Thanks. Okay. So anyway, I would just read. So, and our last piece of niche history here happened 5 years ago, and it's from the world of professional wrestling. As on this date 5 years ago today, WWE held its Monday Night Raw event from the FedEx Forum in Memphis, Tennessee. And as I'll go down to see the results here. Okay, so and on that night, um, in the main event, saw Finn Balor, Luke Gallows, and Carl Anderson defeat Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Jason Jordan. That was the main event. Samoa Joe defeated Rhino. Titus Worldwide of Titus O'Neil and Apollo Crews defeated the Bar of Sheamus and Cesaro. In a WWE Cruiserweight title match, Cedric Alexander defeated Enzo Amore via countout. So, and then the show opened up with Sasha Banks and Bayley with Mickie James in their corner defeating Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose, Paige in their corner via Smith. Now you look back, this is from 5 years ago, and think about where a lot of these people are now. So, some of them are still with the WWE, but some of them are in AEW or Impact. They're like all over the place now. Think about that, huh?
Well, let's take a look at this. Okay, Jason Jordan's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Samoa Joe and Rhino are gone.
From WWE, Samoa Joe's in AEW and Rhino's in.
I mean, you got to understand. Again, contracts are contracts, and things happen. People move around. It's just like New Japan. New Japan's contracts are for 1 year and 1 year only. Okay, and Mickie James is gone. Mandy Rose is gone. Paige is gone. Matt Hardy's gone. Kurt Hawkins is gone. Enzo Amore is gone. I know Apollo Crews is still there. I think Titus O'Neil's in the background. Dana Brooks is still there. Cesaro.
Titus O'Neil's an ambassador now.
Cesaro's gone. Samoa Joe's gone. Rhino's gone. Heath Slater's gone. So
yeah, the funny thing about Rhino and Slater right there, Rhino and Heath, they recently, like about a month ago, were Impact World Tag Team Champions, and they're actually involved this Friday in a 4-way elimination match with the current champions, Motor City Machine Guns, along with Kurt Hawkins, who of course going by his real name Brian Myers, and Matt Cardona's major players. And
that's the thing. They may have not been anything in WWE. They might have been middle carders, but when they got out on the circuit, they went right back up to the top. Matt Cardona, I mean, you got to look at him. I mean, he had been really good for so long, and they just kept pushing him down because he didn't have really anything to work with, because he just didn't, he didn't fit that mold they wanted. But when he got out, he took off.
Yeah.
Same thing with
you. The funny thing is that even though he wasn't that popular, he much in the same vein as kind of like Daniel Bryan too.
He was popular.
Where he came up with a character that overshadowed what Vince's opinion of his was. Zack Ryder.
Right. He got the fans behind him. That's the thing. If you can get the pop, that'll say, and he could get the pop. That was the whole thing, and that's what they had him feud with the Miz, because the Miz is, as a villain, one of the best ones they've got, and Cardona and Miz worked great together. They're good friends. That's why their chemistry worked together. That's why they did those matches together. Everything worked really good. But like I said, when Matt came out and the NWA saw him, they were like, "We're going to get him." He got the world title. He got a whole lot of other stuff with other companies and like that. Everybody fed off him because they knew he could draw money. That was, I mean, he has that potential to draw money. It's just like Juice Robinson. Juice Robinson was promised a lot of stuff at WWE. It didn't work out. He went over to Japan. He refocused and got retrained. He went through the young lions repertoire. He was put with David Finlay and Jay White, and they all worked through together. They're all good friends, and that's the whole point. And so, look at him now. He's good. He's up there. He can really go now, and New Japan like him. You're going to see a lot of these people that get dumped from WWE. New Japan will take them and reshape them. That's the best thing that ever happened to AJ Styles is when he left Impact and went to New Japan. Because when he went to New Japan, he became a superstar, megastar, bigger than anything he ever had been. That's why WWE grabbed him so quick.
Mm-hmm. Well, he didn't just have a successful career with Impact, though. He also had a successful career with our Ring of Honor, too.
Yeah, but I'm saying when he went to New Japan, that's when he exploded. That's when he became the big guy. That's when he became the major guy. That was it. That's how Finn Balor. Finn Balor had been in New Japan for 10 years, and then, hey, we're going to start this division up. We need somebody to come in, and Balor was so well known. Balor would have been something better if he wouldn't have got hurt, because they put the title on him, but he got hurt. And I say this again, for a long time, Seth Rollins was a very unsafe wrestler. He hurt a lot of guys. And they had to get him in the corner and chew his butt out and tell him to cut it out. And because they had two different things, Balor was supposed to be the champion. He got hurt by Rollins. He had to give it up, go have surgery. Sting was supposed to be the champion. He hurt Sting in that thing and almost paralyzed him because of his stupidity. And that ended Sting's career and everything. That was Sting's last match, and that was because of Rollins.
Well, his last match in WWE, because he's had.
Well, I'm talking about in WWE, that was his last match. It's just you cannot be reckless in the ring with somebody, especially doing those moves. So right. It's 9:01. So I'm
gonna I didn't. If you can just stick around just for a couple more minutes, real quick, we're gonna wrap up here, and I just want to do a quick post game after we go off real quick. But anyways, before we leave, I want to give you guys one last chance to plug your stuff. If you want to once again put your, I know you guys already did, but if you guys want to do it again, put your links in the chat and what have you, and just a quick little outro, as it were. I'll start with you, James.
All right. My name is James Lee. I am the creator and author of the Steins Horror Trilogy and the upcoming graphic novel. If you have not signed up for it, go sign up now. We have a major announcement coming this week. A image artist, very well known. He is on the Professionals. Reached out to me to do a special cover for the book. I'm not going to say who it is till after the Professionals. We will be showing that cover, but it is. I've already seen a preliminary of the cover. It is unbelievable. So he's going to be doing that. We did get our letterist. The first 9 pages are being lettered. So when the campaign goes live, you will be able to read the first 9 pages of the graphic novel. So go over to Indiegogo right now and sign up, because we're launching it in a couple of weeks, and you don't want to be able to get this cover. It is unbelievably good. It is actually better than the cover I had originally planned for the special tier, but this cover is, oh God, it is so good. You're going to love it.
All right. Before we get to Rick, I just want to say one thing real quick. One of these days when I have you guys on, I'm going to have you guys explain to me and to everybody else who may not fully understand, like what exactly the difference is. We're not going to do it right now because it would take too much time. But what I would really love to hear is the differences between, like, well, I kind of know writer and artist, but like penciler, inker, colorist, that kind of thing. One of these days I'm gonna have you guys explain all that, but not tonight, obviously, because we're out of time. Anyways, Rick, go for it.
I am Rick Piper, the creator of Cross Comics and all the characters there. And if if you want to get some of my stuff, you can either get it off my website, crosscomics.ca, or you can go over to Indiegogo and get one of these 2 issues or both uh, right now. And follow me on here on YouTube if you don't already.
All right. Well, everybody, we're wrapping up here, so let me just go through my spiel real quick, and then we'll close it out. So, you guys now know that we're on 6 nights a week. We start off Sundays with our panel discussion, and James and Rick are, of course, 2 members of our regular panelists. We always try to come in, have fun with we talk all things niche together, and just get caught up on the world of niche. This week, of course, I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow as well, Monday through Thursday when we do the Niche Newscast. I go over news stories from CVR, Bounding the Comics, in the world of niche. And then Fridays, and this Friday, of course, Rick will be joining me. We will be continuing our coverage of August of 1939. We'll be actually covering Marvel's beginnings, along with Marvel Comics #1. So I hope to see everybody back here every night as we go through the world of niche. And until tomorrow, bye.
Good one.